time he was born, he was a joy. And I'm not saying that because he's gone, because he was a joy. He never cried.
Right here.
He never had croup. He never had colic. And the only thing is, when he was a teenager,
Call her if you need anything else.
I went into their bedroom.
Thank you.
I went into his bedroom one morning to pick up his dirty clothes. This is when he's about 17. And I picked up his shirt and there was something in the pocket. And I looked at it and it was prophylactic.
Oh my God.
So I just dropped it back on the floor. And then I called to tell his daddy and he said, well, at least he's being careful.
Or maybe he was just an optimist. An optimist.
Oh,
Yeah.
Or maybe he was
he
just saving up.
definitely never wanted to have children.
All right, Tony, you want to go next? Who wants to go next? And
Okay,
like,
well,
and then we'll,
first of all, let's cheers to Tim.
Cheers to Tim.
Cheers, 10 to 10.
wait, keep it up for a second, just for,
Keep 'em up.
I'll keep them up just for a second so we can get it, because Dana will see. All right, cheers. Are you going to do toast, Tony, or come on?
So, cheers to Tim, who always was a joy and would give his heart and soul to anything we needed.
And he always made lists.
And he always made it.
He was very organized.
But on the list, he forgot to say, don't leave the guitar behind the car on our wedding day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
He got ran over.
Which one of y'all ran it over?
I don't remember who ran it over. Was it behind our car or his?
Yes.
So it wouldn't have been
It
us.
happened.
It happened. It happened.
Wow.
All right. Anyway, cheers, drink.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I wish Mike was here because growing up, like my grandmother, our grandmother, like we would go to the cabin on the river, and Donnie and Mike were the cutoff. So Donnie got to go with the big kids, and then Mike and everybody below got stuck with the little kids or whatever. But like when sometimes we'd be down there, Donnie, do you remember this? Because you always got to go with Timmy. Well, Timmy's your age, but then you got to go with Joanna and Randy and Tony, and so Mike got cut off back with us or whatever. And like I love Grammy to death or whatever, but we never, like you all would go down to the
I
river.
remember one where there's a picture of us all in front of the fireplace.
No. I'm not talking. I'm saying you all got to go down to the river. You got to go down.
Oh, true, yes.
Yeah, we were too
I went
little,
down
and
Well, that's a Joanna story.
so
We won't
Chris
come
and
into
me,
that.
Mike, we get left out. But
Oh, that's where Tim and Randy and all this.
but one time Tim was there, and it was Mike and I were down there, and Chris, I think, and oh my God, we would heckle Timmy. It's like we thought we loved Timmy or whatever, but we would just heckling him until
He loses his temper.
yeah, and then he would chase us, but he would always do it like he would grab a cushion and put it on top of you and then just beat the crap out of you. He would just hold it over top of you, just pound you and pound you and pound you or whatever. But then Mike would talk about it like Timmy. So we went outside and Tim, I think they closed either the glass or the screen door or whatever, and like we all ran out and we closed it, and then he ran right through I think the screen door or whatever and took it out. And then the other thing Granddaddy had to fix because he had a BB gun. He tried to make a BB out of Play-Doh one time, and it jammed it up, and Granddaddy fixed it or whatever. But you had a TV with a BB hole in it, and it was Tim, wasn't
He
it?
had a BB gun, and one day he was sitting on the couch and he was playing with his BB gun. He said, Tim, you know you might shoot your eye out. And he said, oh, I know it's not loaded. In a minute I heard him scream, and he had shot a hole right through the TV screen and hit the anchor man right in the forehead.
A perfect shot.
Yeah, that was funny. He said, I didn't know it was loaded. I said, see what I mean?
You shoot your eye out.
And we had that TV for another couple of years, but it always had a hole right through the anchor man's face.
Yeah.
Vicky, so you didn't get to see him so much when he was young, but when he was young, he was more of a normal,
Kid.
like a kid or whatever, and like, every kid's got flaws and everything, and like he would be funny, and like he would say stuff I think that would make him blush if he was here today.
Who's that?
Tim or whatever. Like when I'm talking about when he's like a teenager, like he would say stuff where like just because he's a normal kid or whatever. But as an adult, he was the most gentle. He was the most altruistic person. Because we would go out and visit Tim and Dana, and they would have us ride the whatever that train's called. I can't think what it's
Oh,
called.
the TARC. No, not TARC.
Do you know what the train's called out there?
The
Whatever.
intercity train.
Something.
But when we would wait, Tim would go and he would pick up trash while we're waiting, and he would pick it up and he would. I'm like, nobody does that, and he would do that kind of stuff.
He was
And
such an environmentalist.
Yeah.
and when we would go out and visit him, like we wanted to go different places, and I wanted to get on the highway and go there, and he was like, no. And he would drive us, but he would drive us the back roads everywhere because it would. And there's a photo in there like us with the alien and everything. He would take us, and it would take an hour longer. But like I was always about like let's get there and see it and then come back or whatever. And then Tim was like, no,
Take the long road.
let's
Well,
live every moment.
That's the way he drove across the United States. He didn't take any of the super highways. He took these back roads. And one just he was in Colorado, and he wrote this journal about his trip. And he said, no one ever told me that all the gas stations were 20 miles apart.
Yeah.
And he needed gas, and he said he stopped at this highway maintenance place, and he took a gallon of gasoline. And he was
Stole
so scared. Every time you see car headlights behind him, you would think they were coming to catch him and arrest him for taking that gallon of gas.
Well, Mike, when we were kids, Chris may not remember quite as much because he's 11 years younger, but I was 6 years younger, and like we idolized him. You know, it's like you'd have your cousin come over, but he was 6 years older, like Donnie.
Oh, yeah. So for us,
and
he
so
was like the
I'm like,
brat.
I think he thought like, you know, I don't want to hang around a bunch of little kids or whatever and everything, but we would just pester him or whatever, and it was just. The only thing I know that like I could say is he would get really mad if he lost at board games. Yeah, he would get mad.
Anything that you want. That board games.
Yeah.
Anything.
But you know, he outgrew that because he
That's why
thought that was
me
too
and
much
him
like
were
his
staying
dad.
at Green
Oh, that's
Hill.
really
Well, again, as an adult, he was as gentle and
Yeah,
His picture was way worse than mine. But Posey's just so he wouldn't go.
Oh, you're right on top of your stuff. And not
You're not gonna be able to get that
Yeah,
lid
I
on
know.
there.
I'm trying to fit all I can, but that's not gonna do it.
Well, so I remember when we would go to Mosquito Creek.
Yeah.
And he and Donnie were the young ones, but we'd go with Randy, Joanna, and I. And we would go down to the creek because we weren't around. I mean, we had Silver Creek, but we weren't allowed to play in it like that. But they would go, and he and Randy would find the crawdads and get them, and they may or may not have removed legs off of them.
Oh, no,
And
they
then-
did.
But it was so much fun just going there because we didn't have electricity, we didn't have running water, and we had the big ice block that we'd have to get. And Graham and Granddad would stop at Elizabethton, I think is the name of the town. And then-
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, Indiana.
Yeah.
The other one's in Tennessee.
I remember.
Anyway, we'd get to pick out one piece of candy, and we couldn't eat it until after supper time. So, and then we'd have to take turns at night. We'd have the little kerosene lamps and go upstairs. And Grammy
remember
might
that.
tell stories. Yeah, we all have our
Well,
little
they're about that big.
that are Tim and Donnie older. We have our little lamps, and Grammy would tell stories, and she would tell stories. I won't go into that one about
I remember the
They had to call the doctor
whippoorwill.
one time because she was so sick, and when he got there, I think it was just a lot of gas. And you had to let a lot of gas out. I don't remember that. Well, Grant was, because Grant was telling us these stories, but in the next morning, we'd have to take turns on who had to take the chamber pot out to the outhouse. So it was just really different.
I remember the pictures with the
Yeah,
bowl.
for the wash, where you
Wash your
wash
face.
up.
Wash your face, because now running water. water.
And I remember when Granddaddy built a brand new outhouse. It was a double-decker, 2 seats
Yes.
in there. Yes.
And we can't talk about Tim without mentioning Randy or whatever. That,
Right.
Like,
Yeah, of course.
there's so many funny stories about Randy. Where Randy just, he's like, there's polar opposites. Like they're both great guys. But like there's the easygoing, like Randy's like kind of go with the flow. But
He was like Daddy.
Donnie, do you remember going down? So when Grammy had the house
Yes,
down in
I do.
Hodgensville, and it was like
Octagon House.
yeah, but it was at Christmas, and there was ice on the road and everything.
And our station wagon was sliding.
Oh, and this
And
car
their
passes.
No, I definitely
yeah.
heard that. We're going down 65.
No, not this
south,
one.
And
Not
it
that
was
one.
so much snow, and we're in,
Yeah.
and we kept laughing at a car next to us
That
Like
because
a
they had
Nova.
a tree
It was a
strap on.
hoopty.
And I don't know.
I think you could hear the music. It was blasted music.
It was something made us laugh.
And we got there, and it was
And
Randy.
he was parked in the drive. We were like,
That's not the way he
It
was.
was so funny because it's like we're laughing the whole way
tell it
down.
was Randy going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
But we were laughing at that car for
Because
some
it's,
reason.
because the music was so
Well, I
loud.
don't think we could see him
It
because
was wintertime and everything was iced up. You couldn't see in it, or we'd have seen Randy. Oh, and Randy would also lay back
No,
like
it
he had
was
bucket
Randy,
seats.
maybe
Yeah.
Because for those of you who don't know about individual, like now we all have individual seats, but back then you had a bench seat, which was not cool. So Randy would lay like low back in his, like he was in a bucket seat, so people would think he was in a bucket, you know, a bucket seat.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
And so we couldn't see who was driving it, but the music was so loud.
It was a
boom, boom, boom.
on the highway.
Yes.
No, we could hear
And
it.
with ice, so the windows were up. Yes,
There was
you could hear it.
we would go up, we'd go up, and then all of a sudden you go in with the
And there's that car.
That's hilarious.
It's like, it was. We all started laughing.
You're all laughing at me all way.
Yeah, but he loves music.
Yeah, I hate that Randy's not here today because again he's.
I know.
But I don't want him to get upset either because all he talks about.
At the cabin, I remember I had mentioned this to him probably 10 years ago or something, and he didn't remember it, but I do. It was just me and him, I believe, and we had come down from the cabin, went down that long road.
Yeah.
Because if you remember at the bottom of it, it kind of curved and there was like a lake or something down there with boats. Unless we just walked and found that day.
Yeah.
But on the way back, there was a dead animal on the side. It might have been a raccoon or something. He found a big stick and lifted it up on the end of the stick.
Oh, he's chasing you with it. Yeah. No, I remember the story. Yeah. No, I remember that story.
That was Tim.
No, that was Tim.
That had to
That
be
was
Tim. Randy
Tim.
wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And the time I told him, he does not remember it. I do.
Oh, Donnie, I remember when it happened. I'm like, you talked about it then. It was like traumatic.
No, because I could tell by the look on
Eunice, Mike wrote, so Mike couldn't be here, but Mike's like, I've got some great Tim stories. He's like, wait till I get to they were going to the pool. He's like, I'm going to send them. And then they never came.
Do you all remember though, at the very, very bottom, I mean, it was quite a long way to get to that area.
Did you love, like
you
the
talking
kids
about at the
loved the
cabin?
cabin on the river. Did
The
you?
cabin on the river.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
The
because
very, very bottom.
Did you?
Grammy said you love Lone
To the
Star.
Ohio. Went to the Ohio.
At Lone Star or the
Just over
cabin?
Oh, I'm there a lot of times.
Who went in the house with us and we?
Well, that's what Grammy talked about. You and Tim went to the top of it. She said you and Tim went to the
Remember,
top
like
of
when
it.
we went down that hill, there was an old farm that was kind of abandoned. And I think that's where the little green wine glasses I have came from. But I also
I don't remember
took,
that.
like the shades had these little plastic like dolls that looked like little German dressing dolls. And we stole those.
Oh, I'll tell you a funny story about Tim. He was getting his driver's license and he failed the test.
He
We were
fell.
getting ready to
Wait a minute,
go
wait a
over
minute, wait a minute.
to
Start over.
Oh, Tim was 16. He was going to get his driver's license, and he failed the test. And we were going over to your all's house that night, and he said, "Mom, don't tell him that I failed the test."
Aww.
How many times did it take for him to get it? Just one more?
Twice. Second time was he did.
How old is he?
But I thought, well, what? Who cares? But he did. He didn't want y'all to know that he failed the test.
So I can tell you a story about one time we went out there. Timmy.
This out to Oregon or?
To Oregon. We went out there like 4 times or something.
Oh, nice.
So we went out there
Vic
and
is talking
Timmy.
now. I said, Vic is talking now.
So I took my 3 kids out there, and Champ, my ex-husband, went with us. And Timmy was staying in a house that he didn't own. He was watching it for some friends for a couple of years while they were out of the state.
For a couple of years.
couple of years. I mean, really, for a couple of years.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Killed them off.
So we got there, and it was like 101. I mean, it wasn't really hot.
In Oregon?
In Oregon.
Yeah, it is now.
It is. So he takes us in and he goes, "So you're going to stay in the attic?" We're like, "Okay." And he said, "There's no air conditioning up there."
Oh, no.
And he had like a mattress on the floor. Why did you want to stay in the attic? That's just where he put us. And so, I wouldn't wake up in the morning. So a couple of years ago, he was like reminiscing about, us coming up. And he goes, "Yeah, I kind of regret putting you all in the attic that one time."
No, but like, no, Eunice, listen. So I think this was the time Chris went out, right? So we went out in 2001, and Trina and Steve went out all 3 times. But Trina and Kat didn't go the second time, which Kat cried the entire 7 days straight while we're there, whatever. But the next time Trina didn't go and Chris went. And I think this is when Tim put us in, unless this was the wedding, he put us in. All right, I'll say this. He put us in somewhere that he would have stayed if he were going to do it. And again, he had a successful career, but it was like an extended stay or whatever. Like you would turn the water on and it would spray out like a fountain all around or whatever. But Steve and I walked down, so it's like you open the door and you're outside, right?
Yeah.
So we walked down and they had like the little lobby area, and Steve and I were like, "Hey, is there any coffee?" And the guy's like, he's like, "We're out," but he said we're going to be brewing some. So Tim's not there, but and I think this guy was a homeless guy, and he comes up, he's like, "You can have some of mine," or whatever. And Steve's like, that's okay. He's like, I think I'll wait. It's like, Steve, again, the world's full of people that are a whole lot nicer than me. Tim is, that's what kills me, is nice of a person as I've ever met. And Steve is an incredibly nice person, whatever. Like, I'm like kind of a jerk sometimes. All right, yeah. No, I mean, I give me a jerk or whatever, but that was never Tim, and that's not Steve or whatever, but yeah. Yeah, but the guy's like, so that's where, but that, again, that's where Tim would have put himself.
He was a joy.
Yeah.
But Jim could say that too. But I said, you can talk about Tim too. He thought the world of Tim, especially after he got sick, and he saw how courageous he was. And how well he handled it, and how persistent he was.
Yeah.
He didn't want anybody feeling sorry for him. Really.
It was never mentioned during your party. Never mentioned. He was just as same as he always was.
And he looked great.
And he looked really good. That's insane.
Denny, you and